Hi, in this video I'm going to unpack the 5 steps that you need to take to transition from being a tenant to an owner of the property you live in to a landlord. My name is Neil Forster from Organic Growth. If you haven't done so yet and you don't want to miss any of our future videos, please subscribe, hit the button below, and then you'll be notified the next time I upload a video. So let's get stuck into today's video without too much more ado. What I've found with most people that I've spoken to who are tenants, it's almost like they've resigned themselves to stay a tenant for the rest of their life. It's a decision that they're making every single month. It's not, or every year when they sign a lease. It's not that they're not making a conscious decision of, oh, I think I'll stay a tenant for the rest of my life. It just happens, life happens. And if you don't make a plan, you actually get what you plan for, which is nothing. So one of the primary issues I find that get in the way of people owning the property rather than renting it is confidence. The first step to overcome is your confidence. The concept of owning your own property is somewhat intimidating to many people if you've never done it before, especially if your own parents didn't own their property. It's kind of, well, normally when I have a crisis I phone the landlord or I phone the agent. And I'm here to tell you that's not such a big deal. You know, you're in a property, it was built by human beings, it can be fixed by human beings. And you'll have a network of friends that you can speak to, say, do you know a good plumber, do you know a good electrician if you need them? And failing that, you know, we're living in the internet age. If you need a plumber, you look on the internet for a plumber that works in your area, and once you find one that sort of looks okay in terms of what he presents on the internet, go and look at a Google review of him, see what his clients have said. Go and look at Hello Peter, you know, see, there might be negative reviews too, but it's good. You go and look at the balance and make your call and call the right plumber in. The next daunting part of the property ownership thing is signing on a bond, where you actually borrow money from the bank to buy the property, and you are committing to make a bond repayment every single month for the next 20, 25 or 30 years. And it can be daunting. And so when people look at that, say, oh, I can't do that, I can't get into debt and so on. Well, if you're living somewhere, effectively you're in debt. Every month you're paying a rental, and I refer to, you know, the bond of the house you're living into is kind of a necessary evil. You're either paying somebody else's bond or you're paying your bond off. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather pay my own bond off. So for me, the concept of living in the place that I own and paying off my own bond is far preferable to paying off somebody else's bond. And when it comes to paying a rental compared to paying a bond, I think the best way I can illustrate this is with an example. If I take my first investment property that I bought back in 2001, I think it was, I paid 140,000 Rand for it, and my tenants were paying a rental of 2,200 Rand. So it doesn't seem like much now, but back then it was a normal rental, you know, it's a proper rental. And now we're sort of 18 years down the line. My bond's almost paid off. My bond repayment is at 900 Rand a month. It's less than the levy. And the market related rental for that property is about 6,500, 7,000 Rand. And we're talking about post-COVID rentals. In other words, after, you know, with COVID having come in, the rentals have all dropped a bit. So the market related rental for that unit now is 6,500, 7,000 Rand. So if I had to compare myself, you know, if I was going to live there myself, should I be owning it or renting it? Well, if I'm renting it, I'm paying 6,500 a month. If I'm owning it, I'm paying 900. You know, the numbers speak for themselves. And when, as a tenant, you're going to be paying rental every month anyway. You just don't know it. Right now, you're looking at the next 12-month horizon. So this is just a bit of a mind shift we have to take and realize that, look, I'm paying rent or I'm paying a bond. I might as well pay my bond. The next step we have to take, step 2, is the fear of making a mistake. You've got to overcome this fear of making a mistake. You know, you just talk to anybody. I was talking to somebody yesterday, say, before you bought your first property, what was in your mind? And she said, well, what if I bought the wrong type of property? What if I bought the wrong place? What if my stove broke? Who do I call? You know, all the things that I'm discussing now came up right away. They're right at the surface for anybody who is either thinking about buying or has just bought their first property. So in terms of making a mistake, you know, it's actually a vast subject, this. There's so much to consider. You've got to pick your area, you've got to pick the right type of property for yourself, it's got to work for you and all that jazz. So it's beyond the scope of this video, but I'll leave a link below. I wrote a blog recently In fact, it's one of these blogs that I just keep adding to it. So it's at the moment, I think at the time of me recording this video, that blog's got about 4 or 5 videos in it already. And that blog's called the Definitive Guide to Buying Your First Property. And I'll leave a link below, and you're going to have a look at that. And it's a step-by-step. Let's look at location, let's look at price, let's look at what type of property, and so on and so forth. And I even talk about how to go about getting bond finance. So in that blog is a number of videos, and I've designed it as a resource for first-time buyers. So I'm not going to spend much more time on this fear of making mistakes. The way you overcome making mistakes is to learn and educate yourself. And I really trust if you go and read that article, that you'll really be empowered to say, hey, hang on, I can do this. Step number 3 is affordability. And many people make a decision to buy or not to buy on a very uninformed basis. They're talking to their mates and say, I think it's a good idea to buy, or no, it's not a good idea to buy, and I can never afford it. A lot of people I've spoken to who are renting, I say to them, why are you renting, not buying? And they say, I could never afford a bond. And it's absolute garbage. It's absolute garbage. I talk about the property ladder a lot, and this whole video is actually about climbing the property ladder. The first step is always the hardest one, getting onto the ladder, buying your first property. The second step of the ladder is buying your second property. In other words, now I'm living in one and I'm renting the other one out. And you take a next step up, and now you eventually have more and more properties that you've bought, that you're renting out, and other people are paying your bonds for you, and then you're living in one of the properties that you own. And when it comes to climbing onto the ladder, the first step into the ladder, I've never seen the first rung so low in my whole life. The first step has never been this low. The interest rates are the lowest they've been forever, just about in South Africa. But normally what happens when the interest rates drop, the prices go up because now there's something more affordable. But in this sort of post-COVID environment, there's a lot of fear out there, a lot of people saying, no, I don't want to buy, I don't want to buy, I want to sell, and so on. So the opportunity, what's happened is the prices have actually come down a little bit, and the interest rate has come down a lot. So both those two factors have made it so that if you're a tenant right now, I'll always put money on the table, if you're paying the right kind of rental, that you can replace your rental with owning an almost identical property with no cash flow difference. In other words, your bond repayment and your levies and your rates are going to come to what you're paying in rental at the moment. They're very finely balanced at the moment. So right now, you can substitute renting for buying at no extra cost. And then the benefit of that is next year, when you expect your rental increase, well, your bond stays the same. And the year after it, when the rental goes up, the bond stays more or less the same. But the bond moves a little bit with interest rates. But in South Africa, I don't see the interest rates rising quickly at all. The government really needs to stimulate the economy. And the best way to stimulate the economy is to drop the interest rates. And the way to quench the economy is to increase the interest rates. That's how they call it controlling inflation, where they put the interest rate up to stop people spending. So they're not going to do that in a hurry. And I foresee in the near future that rentals are going to far outstrip bond repayments. So when it comes to affordability, if you are staying in a rental apartment and you passed a credit check to be able to sign a lease there, you'll probably pass the same credit check to be able to buy. And from a monthly cost point of view, it's going to be very similar to what you're paying at the moment. Step number 4 is, how am I going to get the bond finance? A very good question, and unfortunately people tend to make an assumption about that answer, and they go to their own banks. And frankly, that's the worst thing you can do. To go to your own bank and say, I need a home loan, can you help me, is the worst thing you can do. Because they see you coming a mile away, and you might get bond finance, but you're not going to get the best deal. And I always recommend that you go and see a bond originator, and that what he does is, on your behalf, he goes to the market and he gets you the best deal. And when he's talking to the banks, they know that they're talking to a bond originator who knows the market, and you'll get a best deal. And the best of all is the bond originator doesn't cost you a cent. And I did a recent video where I interviewed a fantastic bond originator, and Rodney, good friend of mine as well. And I'll leave a link below to that video, and go ahead and watch the video, and he's got some golden nuggets for you. If you're thinking about getting a bond, even if you've got 5 bonds before, listen to what Rodney has to say. Now we're going to talk about step number 5, the final step to becoming a landlord. So initially, I spoke about transition from being a tenant in a place that you live at the moment to owning a place, either the place you're actually living in now or very similar. And the next step is on this property ladder of ours is to get to the place where I'm owning the place that I'm living in, and the first place I bought, I've now put a tenant in. So from now on, he carries on paying my bond. Up to this point, I used to pay my own bond. I bought another property. I now get Mr. New Tenant. So a tenant comes and pays your bond off for you. This is where the magic happens. Suddenly you find yourself saying, hang on a second, I'm now a landlord. I've got a tenant paying me rental. He's paying my bond off. And while I'm sleeping, money's coming in. And of course, it's only a matter of time before your bond is paid off fully, and then all the income is yours. And you'll look up and you'll say, hang on, my retirement is now closer than I thought it was, because now whatever my retirement plans are, this income is going to augment it, and it's income that's going to keep pace with inflation. So financial freedom is that much closer. You're now becoming a landlord, and then you're looking at the next step. The next step is buy my second rental property, buy my second buy-to-let property. And your whole mindset changes. And if what I've said in this video really speaks to you, then please go to our website, organicgrowth.coza, and there's so much material there. I've been writing for years on how to educate people to become investors. I've been talking about this property ladder for years. It's a process of owning multiple properties, and those multiple properties paying you, firstly they're going to pay your bond off, and once the bond is paid off, they're going to be paying you, and that becomes your financial freedom. That becomes your ticket to being able to retire early. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's opened your eyes a little bit, and if you want some more information, then please subscribe so that you are notified whenever we upload a new video. If you haven't subscribed yet, I see a lot of people who are watching our videos haven't subscribed. So it's a simple thing. You just push the button, and the next time I upload a video, you'll be notified. And of course, if you ever want to unsubscribe, you can. It's free, it's no effort, and all it is my next video will come up into your feed. And then of course, I'll put up on the screen some other videos that you might find interesting. Go ahead and click them and educate yourself. Educate yourself and learn how to climb this property ladder. Until next time, bye-bye.